All right, Saagar, what are you looking at?
Well, everyone, as predicted, Liz Cheney, the scion of Dick Cheney, the last remaining Cheney in office in the United States, resoundingly lost her congressional primary on Tuesday night, predictable fashion. The result of the primary is less fascinating to me than the degree of her loss and the national media's reaction to it. And it leads me to attack one of my biggest pet peeves: lack of honesty with oneself. As for Cheney, I don't have much to say. I think anyone who was connected with and continues to defend the war in Iraq should be marooned out on an island. Do I think that criticizing Trump for January 6th makes up for that? No. So good riddance. Just to reiterate the results that Crystal and I dug into yesterday, it was a resounding and overwhelming defeat. Cheney lost almost every single county in Wyoming, except for those which were dominated by millionaires. Cheney is just the latest member of the GOP caucus in the House who voted to impeach Trump to either lose her primary or announce her retirement, bringing it to a full 80%. Now, this isn't just a one-off, it's a pattern, and the statement is clear. The only thing that matters in American politics today is Trump. And as much as that sucks, you need to make peace with it and understand it will be that way until the day he dies. This was inspired by a monologue, the tweet from Ambassador John Bolton. He wrote, quote, "Liz Cheney's loss diminishes our party. By putting her constitutional responsibilities about partisanship and political future, she deserves the highest possible praise. Attacks against Republicans based merely on disagreements about Trump must end." Note, Bolton used the phrase, quote, "our party," and also noted that attacks on Republicans based merely on disagreements about Trump must end. So who wants to tell him? It's over, John. The Republican Party you were a member of died in November of 2016. As for attacks on Republicans based merely on disagreements on Trump, that is literally all that matters in these primaries. Do any of you even know the name of the woman who beat Liz Cheney in Wyoming? My guess is probably not, because honestly, it doesn't matter. She will probably have the exact same voting record. The difference is she has the MAGA imprimatur, and Cheney does not. I believe in democracy. GOP primary voters are making it clear. They love Trump. And if you are vocally opposed to him, well, then they don't love you. And they don't love you enough to vote your ass out of office. Listen to them. Also listen to the man who they have put their trust in, Trump. Trump, while in office, at times pretended to care about policy, but after January 6th basically made it clear he cares about only one thing. If you think the election was stolen and are willing to, quote, fight for him, then you're good. If you don't, then you're bad. My favorite example of this is Elise Stefanik. In before times, Elise Stefanik in Trump circles was kind of persona non grata. She was a neocon. She voted for the Equality Act. While Trump was president, she was one of just 14 Republicans to try and overturn the declaration of a national emergency at the southern border. She supported DACA, tax cuts, etc. In effect, she was everything the so-called Trump movement was against. And yet, she, quote, fights for Trump now. And by that, I mean she goes on TV and opposes impeachment on January 6th and has transformed herself into a Fox News MAGA warrior. What this has led to is that in January at his Palm Beach resort, Trump lavished so much praise on her that to date, she is one of the only people that I can find so far who Trump has said definitively could be his own successor, saying she could be president in 2028. So again, I reiterate, the only thing that matters, both to him, to Stefanik, to the legions of MAGA people who are donating to her, is support for Trump. None of the policy I laid out will matter at all in her primary as long as she vocally defends him. Now you could say, but Saagar, how is it possible then when someone like Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger still win these primaries in Georgia? I would say, hey, that's a pretty good point. But guess what the critical difference is? Brian Kemp and Brad Raffensperger didn't say one bad word about Trump. In fact, when they ran, they emphasized that while they understood Trump was upset at them, they still actually had implemented a MAGA agenda and committed to do so. Kemp, you may forget, while yes, he did not go along with Trump's plan to steal the election, still passed, endorsed, and defended the GOP voting law that was put into place in reaction to the election. He also said he would, quote, absolutely back Trump in 2024. Voters backed him because at the end of the day, they did not see him or Raffensperger as oppositional to Trump in the same way as someone who literally voted to remove him from office or who has repeatedly appeared on cable television to bash him. Sadly, it only further confirms my thesis. If you're a Republican and you want to remain in office, you cannot say anything bad about Trump. This delusion about what it means to be a Republican or not does not just pervade neocons like Bolton, but a new breed of Republicans, of whom I am actually very sympathetic to. Those who hate the left, were disillusioned with authorities during the pandemic, and are repulsed by wokeness that pervades society all the way down to the school level. That person is best typified by an Elon Musk. Musk has said that he voted for Biden. He's become disillusioned by the left. He says he supports a candidate like Ron DeSantis, but he wants Trump to, quote, hang up his hat because he's too divisive and he wouldn't commit to voting for Trump again. Despite this, Musk is even speaking this weekend at the House GOP retreat. Now, I got some bad news for Musk and many of these other so-called I'm pro-DeSantis but anti-Trump folks. This is cope. The bellicosity, the tweets, the flags, the force of personality about Trump that you may hate, that is what the primary voters love the most. Again, I say, just listen to them. Being a Republican is not a lifestyle brand. It is to align yourself with the predominant positions and dominant force of one of the two parties in American politics. Today, the force behind that is not post-9/11 terrorism, it is not tax cuts, it is not small government. It is Donald John Trump. And I know, this is very painful to reconcile yourself to. Most people want to believe there is more, but let me tell you, there isn't. I made my peace with that a long time ago. Honestly, it's much more freeing and interesting to live a life not aligned with any so-called national movement. And perhaps the time will come when a real third party or some non-two-party aligned force can make a dent. But today is not that day. And in fact, while Trump is on the ballot, either way, that day is unlikely to come. Trump is the duct tape that holds the GOP together and the Democratic Party. He's the only force on earth which can quite literally trump things like the economy or social change and make the election about him. Either get with it or get out. It's fine to get out, but don't delude yourself anymore. It drives me crazy. John Bolton, our party. Dude, it's over. You're right on the right.
Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.